What's up, everybody? It's me, David, and today we're going to be doing a little informal review of Logan. I say informal because, as you can tell, this is sort of haphazardly set up. I don't even really have a script to work off of. I just made this little outline here that I'm going to be, just following, so I got my main ideas in order and it's structured the way I want it to be. The reason it's informal is because I have the drive to do it right now, but I don't really have the time or resources to plan out, these crazy videos like I want to, and that's what's been making my video uploading frequency so low. Sometimes you just gotta make stuff. Sometimes you just gotta go out there and you gotta do it, and you gotta give it your all with what you got. If I don't do it right now while I have the drive, then it's never gonna get done because my mindset and how I look at myself is pretty toxic, and frankly, it's counterproductive to my goals and what I need to be doing in life. So if you learn anything from me, if you learn anything from this channel, your biggest enemy is your own mind. And it's up to you to defeat yourself through sheer power of will. But enough of my stupid, uninteresting personal problems. Let's get into the review already. So Logan is pretty powerful and I'd say very mature for being a superhero movie. Let's compare it to a couple things that can define the standard superhero flick that we've, had so many times this decade. So a lot of these superhero movies that come out, they're really good. I enjoy them. They're very entertaining. They're very satisfying to watch, but I think we can all agree that they're a little bit shallow. What I mean by that is that for the most part, visually and thematically, they tend to play it pretty safe. They don't go into really uncharted territory. They don't say or do anything really different or really difficult. And sometimes they'll throw in some pretty significant themes, like in Civil War. The whole thing with that is like, what should the operating autonomy of a superhero be when they're trying to, protect the world and stuff? And obviously that translates into what should the autonomy of the government be? And what should they be allowed to do in the name of keeping us safe? So they say. But for the most part, these movies tend to be mainly about the spectacle. A lot of focus is on the action and, the quick, witty banter.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that away, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
And Scarlett Johansson in skin-tight leather. I think in a lot of ways the modern superhero genre is very similar to the filmmaking of Golden Age Hollywood from, like the 20s to the 40s and stuff. For one, their main function is to be these adventurous, fun, entertaining movies. And they mainly consist of a lot of positive messages. You never really leave one feeling like ugly deep down inside, And yeah, they're a bit formulaic, but they're classically structured. So as a result of that, they oftentimes, despite being pretty cliche, are very entertaining and satisfying to watch, and you feel good after it. The fact of the matter is, they're simply not very bad movies, they're well made. They got it all. They got the system down. But Logan contrasts against this pretty heavily, I think, in that it's a really dark movie. And when I say that, I don't mean like it, it's not like brooding and tortured on the inside, like how we had a couple years ago. That's what gave us Man of Steel. And I'm just saying thank goodness that we grew out of that. But I think a lot of Logan's strength can be attributed to the fact that this movie has so many different elements to it that it balances very well. For instance, right, like I said, it's a very dark movie, but despite that, it has some really funny, gut-busting moments. And when I say funny, I don't mean like Avengers funny, where Tony Stark will call Hawkeye a faggot and everybody goes. What I mean is that some of this stuff is really freaking funny. And you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have your share of laughs by the time the movie's over, despite, the dark tone. And of course, to counter those really funny moments, those lighthearted moments, you have a lot of heartbreak in this movie. When I say this with 100% seriousness. You may cry. Those tear ducts may burst. So be prepared for that. Be prepared to look like a weenie, because you totally might, you might be a weenie, frankly. No offense to weenies. And for a superhero movie, it at times can be very quiet and contemplative and serene and just really slow-paced and laid back. You don't see that very much in a lot of 2010 cinema, like that slowness. But, you know, again, with the slowness, you still do have those scenes of really intense action where there's a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of, like, adrenaline. It's not a boring movie by any means, trust me. You'll get your superhero fight kicks, I'm sure of it. This movie takes, like, whatever it wants to do emotionally, it goes there, like, 100%. And this well-roundedness makes it feel very complete. Another movie that I think did a very good job of having, like, broad emotional changes and shifts from this decade was actually Django. That might have been the greatest in-theater experience of my life, at this point anyway. Like with Logan, I would recommend seeing it with a lot of people, a big group of people, because there's so many different moments, so many things to react to and to share as a group. And I think that the reason every aspect is allowed to flourish and it's able to go to all these different places and do it well is because the pacing allows it to do that. And, you know, like I said before, I think a lot of movies from this decade have missed really, really strong pacing. You know, even though we have plenty of movies that are 3 hours long or 2 hours long, that's mainly so that they can just fit a bunch of stuff in there, you know what I'm saying? The director just has things that he wants to say, and he's gonna make sure that it's all said well. And that's what determines the length of the movie, not necessarily, you know, how many events do we have to fit into this before we can stop and set it up for the next sequel. Another bunch of movies that have come out lately that I think are reminding everybody what great pacing can really do for your movie. Silence was really good. Hacksaw Ridge and Get Out, all very recent, all paced extremely well. Those are true theater experiences. Those are shared experiences. You go see those, you're going to feel connected to everybody else in that theater. They feel so full and complete. Because they're all coming out sort of along the same time, that gives me a lot of hope for the next couple years. You know, maybe great pacing will come back to movies, and who's to say, like, how good the 2020s might be. Aesthetically, Logan is pretty standardly shot. You know, it doesn't do anything super crazy visually. Because, like I said before, the pacing is such a big thing with this movie. The cinematography and editing were allowed to display their full strengths, you know? It's not like an ADD Taken 3 hopping over a fence sort of thing. It's like, keep the shot on as long as it needs to be on to get the biggest impact we can get from it. You know, let's hold on to this shot because this shot's really beautiful, it's really poetic, it complements what we're trying to say here. So in general, like, nothing super, like, out there, but it's done very well, and it works. The color palette I could probably only describe as rustic. You know, it's like, it's sort of warm, but there's a lot of, like, it's very dim, it's dull, you know, not a lot of saturation within that warmth. So, rust, I would say. And I think that works to complement both, like, the weariness of Logan and his old age, as well as the bleak time period that this movie is set in, you know, what's gone on in the mutant universe and what's happened. But it's not just rustic all the time, because it actually is allowed to have some nuance, and it will change occasionally to more vivid colors to enhance, like, whatever they're trying to get across in that scene. For instance, the example that comes to mind for me is when Logan is driving a bunch of crazy young party people in his limo, and, you know, he's driving through a city. You got, like, these nightlife colors, and it's very vivid, it's very bright. It's, like, juxtaposed with Logan himself. You know, he's drunk, he's a defeated, bitter old man. It really helps to bring out where Logan is mentally in a more subtle way than if they just left the colors dull the whole time and didn't change them. Just to reiterate again, right? Like I said, the cinematography and the color palette, in addition to the way the story is structured and how it's paced, it all comes together to create, like, a very full and complete experience, and it has, like, this wide emotional range, which, in my opinion, gives it a lot of power as a movie. The villain was done so freaking well. I loved him because I hated his guts. You know, like how I just said, all the elements come together to make this movie feel complete. Well, everything about this guy came together to make you freaking hate his stupid guts. Everything. His mannerisms, his clothes, his dialogue. He makes it so much more compelling to root for Logan in this particular story. It's really something. Lauren, or X-23 as some comic book fans know her, she was stunning. She was stunningly good, I thought. You know, especially for being a little kid, she really elevated her scenes. She really elevated the movie with what she brought to the table. There was none of that childish, immature, like robotic acting. You know, there was none of that Anakin from Episode 1 type stuff. She was very good. She was very good, especially for being an 11-year-old girl like she is. And you know, I'm really excited to see personally like where she goes with her career. Because if she is this good at 11, when she's like 26, dude, like move over Meryl Streep. She'll probably be dead by that point. I'm sorry. Move over Jennifer Lawrence. Probably still alive at that time, Jennifer Lawrence. All in all, in summation, I think there was a lot of thought put into the making of this movie, and it really shows. Despite being like very similar and very derived from this current generation of superhero movies, it felt still pretty different. For instance, in other superhero movies, right, you'll be waiting for the action, you'll be looking forward to it. You can't wait to see like what crazy stuff is going to happen, what's going to go down. You know, it's just like you're waiting for that big punch of like a final battle. But in this one, like I kid you not, you almost don't want there to be fights. You kind of want everything to go smoothly for Wolverine so that, you know, he doesn't hate himself. You don't want to see him hurt. He's already hurt enough, dude. But that's just a testament, I think, to how much this movie really makes you feel for the characters. And this may be a little controversial to say because it's very, we still have a couple years to go and the movie just came out. But, I think it might be the ultimate 2010's movie. Now hear me out when I say this, right? For a couple different reasons. For one, it's a superhero movie, right? And what really, I defy you to find me another genre of movies that defines this decade. The superhero movies have ruled the 2010s and probably will into the 2020s. So it's got that base covered. In addition to that, it's not very, as far as I could tell, it's not very derivative of old styles. It doesn't try to call back to old aesthetics of movies. It's very modern in its presentation. And with these modern conventions and all their advantages and all their flaws, it manages to put together a great movie. And, you know, call me a stickler, call me a film buff, nerd, critic, overly critic, but frankly I don't think there have been many movies that are as powerful as Logan is using only the conventions of this time. Just, essentially, it's arguably the ultimate incarnation of the 2010s superhero movie. And because the superhero movie defines the 2010s, I'm inclined to say that it might be the 2010s movie. But I mean, like, you know, that's just my opinion. I don't really know anything, obviously. I only have 40 subscribers at this point. In general, I thought it was an excellent way for Hugh Jackman to end his run as Wolverine. You know, I was never a super big fan of the X-Men movies. In fact, I kind of dislike most of them, I'll be honest. But, you know, that again speaks of the power of this movie, really, in that it fully explores and embraces the potential that is there with this character and the stories that can be told with him and what Hugh Jackman can bring to this character, how you can bring him to life. And I'm sure a lot of people are pretty sad to see him go. It's better this than for there to be like 8 more Wolverine sequels and for it to be run into the ground and everybody to hate it. Which is actually the reason that he left. He didn't want the character or himself to be run into the ground.
I was just chatting with him about, you know, why did you finish after that 8th or 9th season? What was the point? What was the tipping point? And he was very clear. He said, look, when you're creating something, it's very important not to run yourself dry. It's not about finishing on top necessarily, but making sure that you're creatively still got something left, which propels you into whatever's next. And as he was talking to me, I went home and I said, Deb, this is it. This is the last one. And then, like the next morning, I wake up at 4 in the morning and I record into a voice memo because I had this really strong idea of what to do for the last one. And that's like two years ago or something. So yeah, it was Jerry.
So he wanted to end it on a good note. And I'd say this is probably the best note he could have possibly ended it on. So I guess as of now, I think it's still playing in a lot of theaters. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. Or, you know, like if you're watching this in the futuristic world of 2032 or something, you know, go buy it or rent it on your 4K, 8K, 20K Laserdisc, whatever you guys have, and check it out, because I think it's definitely, I would consider it an essential movie of the 2010s for sure. It's really good. It's a really good movie. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Once again, I'm David. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, maybe share it to Facebook, maybe share it to Reddit. You know, every little thing helps because frankly, I'm putting a lot of hard work into these things, and I don't think you guys appreciate it. You know, these numbers don't show much appreciation, and I'm frankly a little salty about that. No, but seriously guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Viva la cinema. Goodbye.